Key recovery agents. In this series of videos, we've looked at creating our PKI hierarchy and issuing users with certificates for security. Now, one problem that you will face in your PKI career is that digital keys will inevitably get lost. Now, if a key is lost and files have been encrypted with that key, then the file is also as good as lost. So we need to create a key recovery agent. Now, firstly, a key recovery agent must be created on an enterprise CA, not on a standalone CA. And secondly, only domain admins and enterprise admins have access to the key recovery agent template. Alright, so let's go and open our certificates MMC by clicking on Start, Administrative Tools, and then loading the Certification Authority MMC. Okay, we'll expand our MMC, and then we'll come down here and expand our CA issue. Now, because we need to access the key recovery agent template, we'll select Certificate Templates, and then we'll right click, and we'll select New Certificate Template to Issue. Now we'll scroll down and we'll locate our key recovery agent template, and then we'll click OK. Now in our right hand pane you can see our key recovery agent template appears in the list of available templates. Now that we've done this, our next step is for us to log on to a user's workstation that we're going to allow to become a key recovery agent. Okay, so here we are on Bob's PC, and we've decided that Bob is going to be a key recovery agent. So we'll log Bob onto our domain. Now we need to open the certificates MMC, so we'll click on Start, and then Run, and then we'll type in MMC and we'll click OK. Now, as we've already used Bob to create a certificate MMC earlier in our previous videos, we can simply revert to the old one that we saved. And in the left hand side we'll expand our personal certificates, and then we'll select Certificates, and we'll right click and select All Tasks, Request New Certificate. And this brings up the certificate request wizard, and we'll click Next. Now we need to select the type of certificate that we want to request. So in our case this is going to be a key recovery agent certificate, so we'll select that and we'll choose Next. Now we need to enter a friendly name for our certificate and an optional description, so we'll enter those in now and we'll choose Next. Okay, our wizard's done, we'll click Finish. And now we can see we get a message that tells us that our certificate request was received by our CA, but it is going to have to be approved by a certificate manager. So we'll click OK. Alright, so we're back on our issuing CA, which is of course is our enterprise CA, and we'll open up our pending requests folder, and here we can see that we do have a request from Bob for a certificate. And if we scroll over to the right, yes, we can see the requester was Bob, and over to the far right here we can see the certificate template type was for a key recovery agent. So what we'll do is we'll right click on this certificate, and if we happen to like Bob, what we're going to do is select All Tasks, and then come down here and issue his request for the certificate. And now if we go over to our issued certificates, we'll see Bob's issued certificate placed here, along with all the other certificates that we have issued during the course of these videos. Okay, now that our certificates have been asked for and issued, now we need to allow our CA to archive certificates. So we'll come over here and we'll right click on our issuing CA and we'll select Properties. And then we'll come over here and select the Recovery Agents tab. Now currently we can see that it defaults to Do Not Archive the Key. So what we're going to have to do is select the second radio button to archive the key. And we can see here the number of recovery agents we would want to use defaults to 1. Now we're going to leave the number of recovery agents to use at 1, which means that we only need 1 recovery agent to recover a key. If you do require tighter control over key recovery, then you can set more than 1 recovery agent required, and this will require at least 2 people to approve the recovery. Now under the Key Recovery Agent Certificate box, we'll now select Add, and then we'll get a pop-up box which shows us all of the key recovery agent certificates that we've issued. Now of course we only have 1 certificate issued, and of course that belongs to Bob. So if we select Bob's certificate and we can click on View Certificate, and we can see that its intended purpose is for key recovery, and on the Certification Path tab we can see the path all the way back to our root CA. So we'll click on OK and OK again, and now Bob's key recovery certificate appears in our list. And that's okay that it has this red X over it, which indicates that the certificate isn't loaded, as we can see here in the status column. So we'll click OK, and we'll be prompted to restart the certificate services on our server. Now, restarting our certificate services will initialize key recovery, and when we come back in here we should see Bob's certificate showing as valid. So we'll say yes to restart our certificate services, and this should take just a few moments. Alright, our services have been restarted, so again we'll come over here to our CA issue and right click and select properties, and we'll come back to the recovery agents tab, and now we can see that Bob's certificate is listed as a key recovery agent with the status of valid. Alright, so we're cooking. Now the next step is to create a template that we can use to issue archived keys. So we'll right click on our certificate templates and we'll select manage. Now we'll scroll all the way down and we'll select the user template and we'll right click and select to duplicate the template. Now we'll first need to give our new template a name, so we'll call this one Archive Users, and we'll leave the default values below, making sure that Publish Certificate in Active Directory box is checked, and then we'll click on the Request Handling tab. Now here we must select to archive the subject's encryption private key. We need to ensure that this box is checked for us to be able to store a copy of the user's private key on the server in case their key gets lost or corrupted, which is obviously the purpose of the whole key recovery exercise. Now we'll leave the rest of the defaults here as is because we've already discussed them in earlier videos, and then we'll click on the Issuance Requirements tab. Now we must ensure that the CA Certificate Manager approval box is not checked, and it isn't by default when we duplicate the user template, but it's worth checking just to be sure. Now the reason we don't want this checked is that we are now permitting the CA to issue certificates based on this template without administrators having to manually approve them. So we'll click on OK, and here we can see that our new template has been created. Okay, so back on our certification authority, we'll again need to right click on our certificate templates and select New Certificate Template to Issue. Now at the top we can see our Archive Users template, so we'll select that and then we'll select OK. Now to enroll a user to get one of these certificates, we could either use the group policy auto enrollment process we've discussed in earlier videos, or we'll do it manually. Okay, so now we've got another user who we've called XP user, and we'll log on to the domain using that account. So we'll enter in the XP user's user details, and of course type in their password. Okay, so now we'll click on Start, Run, and then type in MMC to open up a blank console. And now we'll add in the certificate snap-in by clicking on File, Add Remove Snap-in, and then we'll click on Add. And then we'll come over here and select Certificates, and we'll choose Add, and then we'll choose Close, and OK. And now I'll just expand this. And now you can see we're looking at certificates for the current user, so we'll expand that, and then we'll choose our personal certificates, and we'll right click, and we'll select All Tasks, Request New Certificate. And this will of course start the certificate request wizard, so we'll choose Next. Now the certificate type we need to choose is Archive Users based on the template we created a moment ago, so we'll select that and choose Next. And now we need to type in a friendly name for our certificate, and we'll just call this one Archive User, and we'll choose Next, and we're done. And we can see our certificate request was successful, so we'll click OK. Now under our personal certificates, we can see the certificate we've just been issued with. Okay, now let's go ahead and we'll create a file on Bob's PC which XP User is logged onto, and we'll get XP User to encrypt it. So we'll open up My Computer, we'll navigate to our C drive, and in our data folder, which is currently empty, we'll right click and we'll select New, and we'll create a text document, and we'll call this file Encrypted. Now we'll double click and we'll just put some arbitrary text in here. Okay, and we'll close this down and we'll save it. Now as XP User, we'll right click and we'll select Properties, and then we'll go to the Advanced button and we'll select to encrypt the contents to secure data box, and we'll choose OK and then OK again. And now we're getting a message here which gives us some advice about encrypting the folder as well. But for our purposes that's not necessary, so we'll just choose to encrypt the file only, and then we'll click OK. And now we can see that the text on our file has changed to green, indicating that it's now encrypted. In fact, just to prove it, I've now jumped back into our issuing CA, and what we'll do is we'll open up My Computer, and we'll navigate to Bob's PC /data where we created the folder, and then we can see the encrypted text file, and if we double click, we're just getting a message which tells us that access is denied. And that's because XP user encrypted the file and we don't have a key to unencrypt it. And now back on Bob's PC, XP user can certainly open the file, as we can demonstrate. Alright, well let's fast forward. XP user's been going about his business, and through absolutely positively no fault of his own, so he assures me, he's somehow deleted his certificate. So we have a problem. So what we'll do is we'll go in here and we'll right click on his certificate and we'll select delete. Now at present, even though we've just deleted XP user's certificate, he will still be able to open the file as everything is being cached. So if we double click again on that file, you can see that yes, he can still open it. So if you accidentally delete your certificate, you do have a window of opportunity to retrieve it. So just remember that for the future. But for now, what we'll do is we'll log XP user off his machine. And now we'll simply log him back in again. Okay, so XP user's logged back in, so we'll go now and open up my computer. We'll go back to his C drive and the data folder, and now we'll double click on the encrypted file. And now XP user, even though he created the file and encrypted it, has now been denied access. Great, so XP user can't even open his own file. So what about reissuing a new certificate? Well, we can certainly do that, but it won't help us for this file. Anyway, let's try that. We'll demonstrate it. So we'll go and click Start, Run, MMC, and we'll open up the certificate MMC that we saved earlier. Okay, now in his personal folder, we can see that XP user doesn't have a certificate, so we'll do what we did before. We'll right click, we'll select all tasks, and request a new certificate. And of course it brings up the certificate request wizard. We'll click Next. We'll again ask for an archive user certificate, and we'll choose Next. We need to provide a name, so we'll use archive users as we did before. We'll choose Next, and then we'll choose Finish. And our certificate request was successful. So now if we double click on certificates, we can see that yes, we do have a certificate now. Alright, okay, let's go back now and we'll save our file. So we'll double click on the file, and again, access denied. Okay, so maybe we need to log back off and log back on again. So we'll close all this down. We'll log off XP user. And now we'll just enter in his password again. Okay, we're back in. Let's go get our file. So we'll click on my computer, go to our C drive, the data folder, and we'll double click on the encrypted file, and access denied again. Okay, so as you've just seen, we can't replace a certificate with another one and expect it to recover encrypted items just because they were encrypted by the same username. Now the reason for this is that each certificate we requested and were issued with is brought along with it a new set of keys. Now as the good-hearted administrators that we are, we now need to run through the process of recovering a lost key. Now to do this, we'll need to jump back on our Enterprise CA that issued XP user's certificate and then open the Certification Authority MMC. Alright, so we're here on our issuing CA, and we'll need to go over here to our issued certificates folder and then locate the certificate that we recently issued XP user. Now the one that we're going to want here is the second last one. If I just expand this out a little bit here, you can see that XP users recently had two certificates. Now this one here at the bottom is the one that we just issued a moment ago to replace the one that was deleted. So we'll right click on the certificate that we want and we'll choose Open. And then we'll go over here to the Details tab, and what we're looking for here is the serial number. Now at the bottom window, we can highlight the serial number and we'll press Ctrl C on the keyboard to copy the serial number to the clipboard. So we can close this down. Now because our username Bob is our designated key recovery agent, we're going to have to log off and log back on as Bob so we can perform some key recovery. Okay, we're back on our issuing CA, and now we're logged in as the user Bob. So let's go and open up a command prompt. Now we'll need to use the certutil utility to do some recovery. Now the certutil command is found on the Windows 2003 resource kit. So try as you might, you won't find it on your system unless you have the resource kit installed. Now we've pre-installed the Windows 2003 resource kit, which you can obviously download from Microsoft.com. So we'll type in certutil, And as with all of Microsoft commands, you can use the /? to get a list of switches for this command. And as you can see, there are quite a few. So what we're going to have to type in for this command is certutil, and then we're going to use the get key switch. Then after this, we need to paste in the key or the serial number that we used from XP user's original certificate. Now this value has to be a 20-digit value, so if you do run into any problems here with this command, ensure that you have entered in 20 characters. Now finally, we need to provide a name for the output file. This output file is known as a blob file, and we'll just use the name of XP user, and then we'll hit enter. Okay, we're done. We can see the command completed successfully. So now if we actually go to my computer and we'll open up under Bob's account, we can see the XP user file that we just created there. Now this file contains XP user's private key in PKCS7 format, and now what we have to do is convert this file to a PFX file, and again we'll do that by running the certutil command. So we'll go back to our command prompt and we'll type in certutil, and this time we're going to use the recover key switch, and then we'll need to provide the name of the file that we just saved, which of course is XP user, and then we'll need to create an output PFX file, so we'll just give this one the name of xpuser.pfx and we'll hit enter. Now we're prompted to provide a password for the PFX file we're creating, so we'll do that and we'll hit enter, and then we'll confirm it again and we'll hit enter. And we can see that the recover key command completed successfully. So now down here you can see we do have a file xpuser.pfx. So now what we need to do is we'll right click and we'll select copy. And now what we'll do is we'll just go back to the share we created on Bob's PC, and we'll just paste this PFX file we've just created right in there now. Okay, and now we'll just switch back to XP user's machine. Okay, so here we are back on XP user's machine, and we'll open up my computer and we'll just browse to his data share, and again if we double click on this file we can see access is denied. But what we need to do now is double click on the XP user PFX file, and of course it starts up the certificate import wizard. We'll choose next. Now we need to specify the file we want to import, and of course it defaults to the file that we just double clicked on, and we'll choose that and we'll choose next. And now we need to provide the password that was entered when we run the certutil with the recover key switch. So we'll enter that in and we'll choose next. Now we need to decide where we want our certificate to be stored, and we'll leave the default, which is to automatically select the certificate store, and we'll choose next, and we're finished. And we can see our import was successful. Okay, so we've now imported our old certificate that was mysteriously deleted by our user. So now if we go back and double click on our encrypted file, we have success. And there you go. Certificates are a great boost to any organization's security, as we've seen over the course of these PKI videos, but can also be a very frustrating and hostile experience if you don't have key recovery agents in place to ensure that there is someone around who can recover your key so you don't become a victim and lose everything. Key recovery is a complex process, and I hope we've made it a little bit easier for you throughout this video.